as I promised, we're going to do, let me cut that off there. We're going to do the preemptive Ed Pearson story. So I'm going to do like 2 parts. There might even be 3. I'm trying to figure out ways for better engagement and stuff like that. And I know the core people like to listen to me and, whatever, but some people like things a little shorter. So I might start making shorts and stuff, and then y'all can, so just real quick, this will be kind of somewhat like of a digital journal real quick too. I took a piece of that audio I had for the forensic explanation about computer forensics, and I'm gonna do a whole thing on that. I might even be able to do it today. I don't know. It's real nice outside. I don't know how much time I want to be sitting in that basement. So you'll get this part of the Ed Pearson storyline, if not more. I got a picture I was looking at of my pops at the Korean War. And as you get older as a man and you have children of your own, you start looking at some of the mishaps of communication and some of the, a lot of times when families break up, pops is the villain. I was thinking about something that I was watching a video from Charleston White one time, and he was like, Pops is the villain because Pops demanded order and Pops ruled with an iron fist. And when I really think about that 20 years later, yeah. Well, then Dad don't let me do this, and he won't let me do that, and he won't let me do that. Yeah, because Dad has rules. And you got some people that grew up, in a lot of single mother homes that ain't have no damn rules. So they react emotionally like they mama. When they mama starts hollering, or if they get into any little altercation, they don't know how to really channel their emotions. So it becomes whining and just, you know what I'm saying? That like they mama do. So they never really seen a man run a house. They never seen order and law. You see what I'm saying? They never seen nobody say, all right, this is how it goes, and that's it. What did my mom do when I start acting up? I'm gonna go tell your dad. I straightened up quick. Whatever discrepancy I had, I was getting flip at the lip. I'm about to go get your daddy. Oh no, don't get dad. Don't tell dad. I'm like, oh man, I'm powerfully sorry, man. No, you know what I'm saying? Because dad gonna lay the law down. And my dad, he had a temper. I don't know if that was from maybe the military or whatever the case may be, but he had a very, very, he was high tempered. That could have came from the war, whatever the case may be. So, he was very kind of multifaceted. Where I got a lot of the hustle from, I got that, and I believe genes are real. My dad used to collect a lot of things like, kind of like junk or tools and things of that nature. My little brother does that now. I did it a little bit. But when it comes to hustling and sell and talking, my dad was a talker. He would kind of do a little flim-flammery and some larceny and scamming too. He could talk you into investing into something or whatever the case, but he would never really materialize it because he didn't have the organization. Like the story where I told you about the computer. He came home with a Mac LC2. These like $1,500 or more back then. When he wanted me to take the Kinko's classes, I had already knew everything. So he didn't have a plan. I said, well, what are you going to do with this? So like sometimes he would take me on painting things. And it's a bunch of stories that I'm going to have to tell. I might make this a series, like a little mini series or something like that. So there was times where he used to wake us up at 5, 6 in the morning just to get up and just, especially like if my mom was out of town or my mom, she was not there. He would get us up really, really early in the morning just to clean stuff, like wash dishes and stuff. And I never understood it. So it was kind of annoying. But he went to the military. So there was there was law and order. We couldn't really say back then, well, no, and get to talking back and stuff like that. That might get you slapped. That gets your ass whipped. You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of cloth that I kind of came from. So, there was a lot of different rules. So I'm going to kind of be jumping back and forth all the ideas and stuff that I remember. Like, there was a rule with school. I don't think he ever went past the 9th grade. I don't know. He never paid taxes. He never, ever paid taxes. I've never seen him pay a tax in my life. I never seen him vote. And I never really heard him say, well, oh, well, college and this, that, and the third, do this. His thing was, you go to school and you do a good job. And that might have been because he never graduated from, you know, I don't know what his education was. Maybe he did graduate. From my understanding, you know, the story that I got told, and I don't know if it was true, is that he never graduated, and then he gets enlisted in the service at one point in time, which I know he enlisted in the service, and I'm gonna show that pic once I do this edit. He did enlist in the service. And, you know, so when he did enlist in the service, I know that when he got back home from the Korean War, he was telling me about how a race soldier, you know, because a lot of them white supremacists was mad when black men came from the war. They were like, oh, you think you better than us, or you are not better, but you think you an uppity Negro in his uniform. Pulls him off to the side and puts his hand behind his back and slams him on the car. And he said it bust his teeth out or bust his teeth or his mouth. He said just because he was black. I never forgot that story. So he was dealing with a lot of stuff like that. So maybe, you know, coming back from the Korean War and dealing with these race soldiers, that might have sparked some anger. You know, that naturally is, you know what I'm saying? You being subjugated. And so, you know, I know at one point he was a salesman. So that's where I probably got some of my sales chops at a young age. I used to try to do yard sales, or if I find pieces of computers, I try to resell them or whatever. I used to sell candy bars in school. So, you know, all during this time, you know, I'd watch him do little odd jobs. So I figured that I might be in tech. You see what I'm saying? So, another thing, you know, my dad was kind of like highly religious, but it didn't operate the way I used to see him do things. And I used to be like, why is he doing this? But he's preaching the word. So, you know, he be scamming and doing all the people that he was involved in his life that I bet it was with the flim flam. It'd be some scam. My dad was always dealing with some kind of street people. Like he had this one dude, I'm going to try to expound upon him just a little bit and then I'll go through it. But this dude from Mississippi named Larry. Larry was the ultimate flim flammery. He was the ultimate flim flam. Like when you think of larceny to the highest degree, what Larry would do, he would, like when we used to have the cable, the scramblers, he would give us free cable. It was always a scam or a scheme being involved with somebody. It was like, you know, and so he could convince people. You got to think, he was like one of the top regional salespeople for Kirby Vacuum and maybe like GM or something like that. Like he was one of the top level sales in the region of the United States at one point, because he's good at selling. But the organization and putting it together, after that, he just couldn't follow up or whatever. But Larry, I remember Larry. Larry was cool. Larry was from Mississippi. Larry would climb up on your roof and get you free cable, all kind of stuff like that. Another thing Larry would do, drug dealers on the north side of Minneapolis, I'll never forget this. What he would do is he would rob the drug dealers. When dudes there was some incident, because my mom was upset about it. Now I didn't know what they were at that time, but they were bricks. Drug dealers would hide them on the roof and they'd hide drugs. Larry would sit out there with his binoculars. He'd watch them all night and all day. And after a while, oh, and then shout out, y'all probably looking at this USA. This is my good brother, On Point Arms. That's where you get your ammos and your weaponry from. Real good brother down Colorado, Windsor, Colorado. I don't buy anything else from anybody else. He sent me this t-shirt. I think I'm gonna wear his cap on, you know, shout out to, I'm not a big Memorial Day person, but you know, I wanna promote our good brother, man. Real good brother. Real good brother. Larry would watch the drug dealers all day, all night, and when they hide they dope and they money and stuff like that, he would like he had binoculars and he had all kind of, I don't know if he went to the army, he had military, just all kind of little gadgets and stuff, and he would dress up in all black and he would go and he would take they bricks and then he flip them. That's what Larry would do. So that's the kind of people my pops used to be. That like it was some characters. It was this one dude named it was Daryl Lynn, Howard Everett. I remember all these names because they were everybody was with the flim flammery. If it wasn't like, it might be a paint job or something like that, but then it might be a scheme. Like he paint somebody's house or something, and then he come home and bring a Game Boy or bring like a Macintosh. And I'm like, man, I don't know if they was scamming to get some of this stuff, but it was always some elaborate scam or a scheme. Then on the flip side, you got, you know, and it was just the people that he'd be associated. Like there was this one dude, he used to go with my sister. He was a high-ranking member of the GD. Some dude named Arcel or something like that. I remember the name. I don't think I met him. But I think my dad and him were doing some business, and something happened where there was a car. Now, this was a real expensive sports car back in that, but they stole the car or did something or scammed somebody with the car, and my dad was hiding it for him to make sure my sister didn't go. I mean, the flim-flammery, the skullduggery, I'm telling you, it was just always something going on. And it never really materialized. And I'm kind of looking at my dad like, we going to church, and I'm like, Dad, you got that larceny in you. Like, I'm looking at him like, man, you always up to some kind of scam, always. And he's telling us about keeping the. I'm like, I didn't really see him steal stuff, but the commandments and this stuff you telling me that you ain't supposed to be doing, and then this stuff I see you doing, and this stuff I hear you saying, it just ain't adding up. So I don't know if he was trying to balance it. He probably figured, well, if I try to get my kids to not be on no flim-flammery like me, then maybe they won't be so scandalous. Maybe if I keep them in church or something, they won't be scamming like me. But I'm sitting there watching you do it. You taking me with these folks, and I'm watching you do it. Oh, well, we could do this and we could do that. Like one time we went down to Iowa. Remember that one time where I got into a fight with my homie Big LT, or not a fight, but a wrestling match or whatever the case may be. And so, remember the school thing was big. So he was mad about that. This was around time when my mom and dad was kind of breaking up or whatever. And so my mom sent me to Iowa. I talked about that at D building. She said, okay, you can't control yourself, so I'm sending you to Iowa. So she sent me to Iowa. He was going down there doing all kind of trips and getting semi trucks full of stuff. And I don't know how they got. I think they figured out a way to go get some. They say it was free, but we went to some place. It was a bunch of spices and herbs or seasoning or something. And it was just, the whole truck was just full of that. So their idea was to go down there and get it. I don't know if they scammed. And because I remember a white dude's like, hurry up, put it on the truck or whatever like that. But it's a whole semi truck. It's a semi truck, and then he had somebody invest in the rider truck. That's what they call the yellow truck, the rider truck. They would call it rider trucks. And I don't know if they still around. I think they is still around. The rider trucks. It was a yellow RYDER rider. The rider trucks. They would put all this stuff in there, and he had me loading up cartons and all kind of stuff like that. And we did this for like 36 hours back in Iowa. And I'm like, man, where you gonna drop this stuff? So he was gonna sell it at the flea market. And there was a discrepancy where he invested, somebody he got to invest in these trucks or find a way to scheme all this stuff out the manufacturing site. I don't know what it was, but it'd be stuff like that. And so, school was a big thing. That's why I was gonna do another section of this, but I could probably get a lot of it in here right now. School, I got suspended from school in 7th grade. Anything off the school was no grounds. Like I remember somebody called me a name or something, and I ran in the house and told my dad, and he pushed me out and locked the door and said, if you go beat their ass and you come up back here, I'm beating your ass. And I'm like, I thought I was a Christian. Like, so I'm sitting there like, okay, so that was the rule. Now in school, don't matter what happened to you, you can't get suspended. So maybe in his mind, he felt like if you could do well at school better than I could, maybe you could be something. Maybe you could be a little more. So that's what I think it was. So he wasn't playing about that school, but he never cared about grades. And I couldn't help him. He couldn't help me with the school. He tried to help me one day. I asked about some math, and he's sitting there looking. So I'm thinking my dad really couldn't read. I don't think he could read that well. He could read, like he'd read the Bible and stuff like that. But when I heard him read, I don't think he was that good of a reader, because it didn't look like he could read. And then he had his glasses, and I'm like, man, could he not read that well? Because he couldn't help me with my homework at all. You know, he'd help me a little. He said my mom, he'd be like, go to your mama. He would never volunteer to help me with our homework. And he never said, oh, yo, you got to get good grades. But you can't be acting a fool in school and you can't get suspended from school. So that was kind of strange to me. My mom was kind of like, my mom and dad had two different ideologies. I'm not going to say my dad had the Sambo ideology, but it was more like, you got to think, he went to the Korean War and there was a picture of Abraham. There was a picture of some presidents, or it was the framers. It was somebody in our my mom made him take it down. They had a big argument about it. He's like, these people own slaves. And, you know, I guess he was like, well, they're the founders and blah, 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 or whatever. So like, but I remember when there was an argument in the house about that. So they got into it about the Constitution. And my mom wasn't really on that turn the other cheek. And he wasn't so much turn the other cheek, but she wasn't really on that turn the other cheek. And you got to think she was 20 years younger. But my dad was 50. He lied to my mom, told, you know, because my dad looked good. I ain't gonna lie. I get them jeans from my pops. My dad looked, you know, he knew how to dress a little bit. And he had that mouthpiece. He's from Mississippi by way of Chicago. So he had that mouthpiece. He's 50. My mom was 30. By that time, she was probably already pregnant or whatever the case. So he hit my mom with the flim-flammery there too. My dad was on some scab. He was kind of scabbing too. He was doing some real, you know, so I'll get to that in a minute. So now they arguing about the Constitution and doing all this here. And so that picture came down. I think maybe he convinced her or whatever. Like, but my mom was like, nah, man, these folks own slaves or whatever like that. Put somebody black up there. You know what I'm saying? Put somebody black up there. And so eventually some other pictures got up there. There was a picture. It was interesting because at one point there was a picture of a woman. Now you could kind of look and tell like she looked white. And the thing is she was Latin. So that stayed. But my mom, yeah, she wasn't gonna have no white woman on the picture. Not that she had an issue, but the thing is she's like, we were looking at, I think my grandma was there and she's like, is that a white woman on the wall? And she was Latin. You know what I'm saying? She was like not Puerto Rican, but you could tell she looked ethnic, but you could tell she looked kind of white, but she wasn't. And so, you know, my mom was on that, like, no, she just like the art. Somebody probably gave it to her or whatever like that. She's like, I ain't no white woman, that's Spanish. You're like, oh, okay. And that picture came down. See, she's like, he's a slave owner, so that picture came down. They had an argument about that, I remember. And so, you know, my dad with this school thing, you can't get suspended from school. My mom was kind of like, hey, somebody hit you back, you hit them back. You know what I'm saying? But so I got suspended from school because I'm on the second floor. This is in Ann Sullivan. This dude named Reggie. And I think they were from Mississippi. He had a brother, Reggie, and he had another little funny little short brother. The tall brother had the box cut. And then the short brother, I was cool with the short brother. He had a key and he was swinging the key and he was doing something. He had messed with me before and did something. And so again, he seen me in the hallway. There was nobody in the hallway. So he's swinging a key, or he did something. I can't remember what it was, but he did something. And I told him not to do it or something like that. And he swung on me or something like that. And so, you know, like sometimes we used to kind of practice fighting and stuff. Like we used to slap box and stuff like that. And, you know, I was small and short, but my hands were kind of big. So I reared back and I bow and I hit him. And then then when I hit him, he didn't think I was going to hit him. So once that happened, he kind of went like this a little bit. And I said, okay, one of the lockers was open. And so when I hit him that one time and he kind of backed up, it hit the locker. You know how loud the lockers is. So when I heard the locker, that amped me up even more. So when I hit him and he kind of backed up, I backed up a little bit more. He kind of came in again, bow, 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 bow. And I hit him like that. And that's when he went all across the lockers like that. And so that's when the police, or not the police, but the teacher came out. Oh, y'all break it up. And so he tried to put his hands up again. And I, boom. And that's when the teacher grabbed him and grabbed me. And he said, oh, he's beat me up and all that. So I got suspended for that. And I got arrested by the police. Because my mom found out about it and said, when I told my mom what happened, man, my mom was like, yeah, but your dad can't find out. So I'm going to send you to Dinkytown. So my mom gave me like $10 to go to Subway. And I went to the library, got some books in Dinkytown. And I was riding my bike. And that's when the police stole my bike, U of M PD. I told y'all about that story. Hey, hot rod. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh, you're riding on the street. What are you doing? And I forgot my truancy paper. There's like a paper you get when you get suspended. So the whole plan was, while my dad was working, I was good, because he would have been pissed. He found out about it anyway. Now, I told y'all about that story. I'll break it down even further, you know, as I go along. But basically, you know, the police, they brought me to QV Hall. They gave me a bag lunch. They took my Subway away. They didn't give me my Subway. They threw my Subway in the trash. That was my first little step of race soldiers. That was my first little racial. I said, okay, I didn't use that term white supremacist, but that was my first little thing, because he didn't have to do all that. He took my stuff. He threw it in the trash. You ain't getting your bike back. You got to have a receipt for your, you got to have a permit for your bike. Now, that's what pissed my dad off once he found out I was suspended. He was mad about that. But when he found out, because he just bought me that bike. It was a red Huffy bike. He just bought me that bike. He bought me, that was the first bike he bought me. And he found out that they took his son's bike. It was $100 back then. That was a lot of money. And you got to have a permit for the bike. So he was pissed about that. Eventually we had to get like a sticker. It's like a sticker. But I've never heard anything like that. You supposed to have a permit for a bike. It was something crazy. It was out of this world. It was something crazy. I ain't never, but they did. The U of M PD used to harass us all the time. So those were the first incidents in the West Bank. They didn't really bother us. I don't remember seeing police in the West Bank in Cedar Riverside, not like that for me. But when we go to Dinkytown, man, anybody will tell you, them U of M PD police, man, they doing the most. Okay, so now the second time I got suspended. So now, hold on, let me get back. My grandma was sitting on the porch. Man, I hope no police come to my house. That's what she was just talking to somebody about that. And here I come in with the police. The police was dropping me off around like 4 o'clock after school. They needed somebody to, you know, they're like, hey, where you want me to drop you off? I'm like, man, drop me off. I think I called home. Nobody answered. My parents, I guess, were gone at that time. So I said, man, drop me off at my grandma's house. Because I could still kind of circumvent it. Because my mom could have still run the play and been like, yeah, he was out. He went to school. You know what I'm saying? But I had to come home with no bike. So police, they uncuffed me. They bring me out. I'm at my grandma's house. And you know, my grandma ain't gonna lie. She gonna be like, man, what'd you do? And I told her what happened. And she said, you know, all right, well, you know, they said they took your bike. That's what folks was mad about, the bike. Because they felt like they didn't have to do that. And they didn't. Eventually, I get home. My dad had got wind of this and he hears about the bike. He didn't even care about the suspension at that time. He didn't even care about the suspension. My mom was like, okay, well, he fought back. The boy was bullying him. That was a 1-day suspension. So he was kind of like, man, don't get in, you know, trouble with school again. But, you know, like my mom's like, man, the boy tried to hit him. So, you know, he couldn't really, but that bike, my dad was fuming. He was mad about that bike for weeks. So he bought me another bike. Second suspension. This is how it pitched. So now, this white dude, we were going to get, everybody was talking about going to Valley Fair. I didn't go to Valley Fair because I probably didn't have the money. This 8th grade now, Ann Sullivan. So there's this white dude used to always be running off at the mouth. I think he's passed now, you know what I'm saying? So I repeat him. So his name was Danny. His name is Danny Gustafson. So he was tall. He's one of them, not kind of hip-hoppity white, kind of like one of them, you know, he reminded me of our homie that we grew up with a little bit. This white dude named Thomas. He grew up in the same area. Like he went black. You know what I'm saying? He was always listening to the black shit and he went black. He had the accent and everything, but he didn't use the N-word now. But he kind of reminded me of Thomas just a little bit. But he's this tall, lanky white dude, used to listen to hip-hop stuff. But he used to always be running off at the mouth. And I ain't gonna say he was scary. He be talking crazy to black folks. He was just aggressive. He liked to fight. You know, he be talking slick, and he wasn't no punk. I ain't gonna say Danny wasn't no punk. He wasn't scary. he be talking SHI to the black folks at school all the time because he just like to run off at the mouth. So some people like Danny because Danny was he was kind of aggressive. He kind of like he was kind of, he'll bully you if he can, you know what I'm saying? So he was one of those and stuff. So now, and we got cool eventually. See, that's what I'm saying. We come up under the pretense when we have a problem and somebody says something crazy to us, we fight when we were younger. You throw them dogs up and then you're cool. Whereas now somebody, you talking some crazy to somebody, you say something on the internet, you're like, oh man, I'm a sue. Yeah, you couldn't do that back then. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get whooped. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going to happen. You know, like, oh man, we had so much fun back then. It was lovely. So look, Danny overheard me saying I ain't going to Valley Fair. There was a thing at the end of the year where somebody didn't like you. When we get to Valley Fair, they getting on your head. You gonna get whooped. Valley Fair's big. You know, the teachers can't watch everything. You just go and then they pick you up at the end of the gates at the end of the day. You're gonna be there all day. So there was a list of everybody. Somebody had a list. There was folks that was on the list. Anybody on the list that was a lame or whatever the case may be, at the end of the year, there was a list. And everybody had their list on who was they was gonna get at Valley Fair. Pee-wee, I just seen Pee-wee, he just bought some books from Pee-wee. I don't think he had a list, but we were discussing a list. Somebody had a list, and I think I was at the table. Pee-wee was there, my homie, you know, the Jagger brothers, they was there. I think he was in that class, so we looking at the list. I wasn't on the list, but my homie Joe was on the list. Joe was getting bullied all the time. You know what I'm saying? Joe didn't want to go. He was afraid. He had white parents. Joe, they adopted that nigga from the Caribbean and they just basically whited him out. His mind was just white, but he was real good at drawing. And I used to try to protect Joe a lot of times because, man, they be taking his lunch and all kind of stuff like that. I mean, like, they be taking his lunch every day. Every day they be extorting him for his lunch and his snacks and everything else. So Joe was on the list because they considered Joe to be lame. I wasn't on the list, and I said, well, I'm not going or whatever. I'm not going to participate in none of this nonsense. You know, it was funny, but I'm not participating in it. So Joe said, man, you know, I don't want to go, man. So, you know, he's whining and crying about not wanting to go, but he wants to. They done bought the ticket, and his dad was kind of, you know, his dad was kind of stern a little bit. You know what I'm saying? His dad was kind of like my dad a little bit. And I went over his house, and we're gonna do a section about that one day because, you know, like. But I said, I ain't going. And Danny says, you ain't going because you's a PUSSY or something. Like, I was afraid to go. I said, what? I got up immediately. And what's crazy is it happened. It wasn't right by Valley Fair time. It was maybe some months before. So there was still time before the end of 8th grade. So I got suspended from 8th grade before the end of the year. I got suspended from 8th grade before the end of the year. So, man, I'm sitting there. Danny, he says that. So right when at the end of that why, I heard that. Because everybody heard it now. I had to get up. And I got up. And Danny got up. And, you know, Danny's real tall. And he got long arms and stuff like that. And I remember how it was. But so I was kind of in the back. He backs up a little bit towards the door. I did the same play with Reggie. So Danny couldn't fight really though. He was just tall and had long arms. So, but I hit him first. Danny runs up. Boom. Hit him again. He tries to, right when I hit him, he rushes me. So I just hit him. I start hitting him with the uppercuts in the stomach. I hit the body. So I'm hitting the body. He backs up again. Boom, 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 boom. Hit him again. So now now everybody's standing up. This shit was like a jail almost. It was crazy. Everybody, Derrickton, man, I didn't know he had it. Like, cause other kids never seen me fight. So some of the other kids used to kind of talk and say little slick things, and I had to take it because my dad was gonna beat my ass. They be like, oh, man, he got them hands. Look at him. So they're kind of going, and so that brings the teacher in, because the teacher wasn't in. The teacher went outside for something like that. Danny picks up a chair. He throws a chair at me. I move out the way. I run up on him again. Bam! That doubled him over. He said, oh. So now the teacher says, what's going on? Oh my gosh. So all the other teachers said, no, he threw that chair there. He picks up the chair again and tries to hit me with the chair. And the teacher grabs the chair. They grab me. He's frantic. Oh man. He's whining and crying because, he's still, he's still kind of, discombobulated. So they bring us down to the office. 3-day suspension. Danny I gotta sit right by Danny when the principal was cool. the warden. The principal was real cool. And he said, Derek, what's going on? What happened, man? And I told him, I said, man, this dude, he called me a name. I hit him, and then he tried to pick up a chair. So, the principal was real. He liked me a lot. And he looked at Danny. He said, you tried to hit Derek with a chair? So now we sitting. The principal goes out and talks to Mary Ann and all these other little people and Jeff Newell and everybody. And me and Danny get to talking now. And I said, man, why you trying to hit me with a chair? He said, man, I wasn't going to win, man. You hit me in my stomach, man. And he said, man, you watch Mike Tyson or something like that? He said, he's like, man, where you learning moves? And this, that, and I'm like, I said, man, I'm short, man. You know what I'm saying? You up a short dude. I got to fight. So we got cool. My dad heard about that. My dad was kind of like, I think he was low-key proud. He didn't say that I should have did it, but he didn't really say nothing. I told my mama, I called my mom. I said, Mom, this dude tried to hit me with a chair. I had to beat his ass. She said, all right, well, just come home. 3-day suspension. I was sitting there watching Jerry Springer and playing Madden 95. Like, I was like, the whole 3 days, suspension. A lot of times your parents will make you do stuff around the house, stuff like that. I laid up that 3 days. I think my dad was kind of like, well, my son, he's too headstrong. He ain't just gonna let nobody get, But see, at the same time, I still carry that same thing into 9th grade to a certain point. I'm still thinking that, well, if I get into another fight, so I had to, even in 9th grade, I was kind of letting people do a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have been letting them do. And then my mom and dad broke up. And after that, 10th grade, yeah, it's going up. That's when I kind of start getting into, I didn't really get into no altercations, but I was ready to get into them left and right. You see what I'm saying? From 10th, 11th, 12th grade, I was ready to get into, in any scuffle. If we want the fade, let's have it. And I used to challenge people at when I was at South. Whenever somebody say something or somebody say, hey, let's get down. And most of the time, nobody really wanted to get down because it was a physical, psychological thing. You don't want to get beat up in front of the girls or whatever. I didn't have a problem with that. I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? So I would have, it wasn't a whole bunch of altercations, but whatever altercation it was, a lot of times I would just pull up on a dude and just say, hey man, let's go to the bathroom. Because a lot of times that's where you go to the bathroom. Especially in South, dudes be in the bathroom and you get in that bathroom, man, ain't no teachers around. Y'all could get down and then you could leave out and patch up or whatever the case may be. And then just, if you ain't beat up too bad, don't nobody know. And that was the beauty of manhood. You could you could talk it out. Hey man, we can't have this. We can't resolve this by talking. Okay, then we gonna have to get down. And then after we get down, we cool. We some of the best friends. That's usually what would happen around that time. But my dad didn't really want us fighting because in his mind, growing up in the Jim Crow South, education was not something that you just get. You see what I'm saying? So, but like, the other thing that he was a herbalist, he started going to present moment and he learned from this Indian or native, you know what I'm saying? Indian. That's what we called him, Indian. And it was a dude, I don't know if he was a shaman or he was somebody that knew in present moment. He went to these classes and he paid a lot of money for them and he dedicated a lot of time learning these herbs. And what my pops would do is he learned how to make tinctures and all kind of stuff. We get sick, he get a cold, we take some of that stuff. I remember one time my little brother got into that stuff and my homie Josh G got real sick and my little brother gave him some herbs and said, take this, man. After one day, man, that stuff, he Josh had the flu, and I could text him today and I asked him like, man, remember that when Brent gave you them and knocked the flu right out? So this wasn't just no babbling stuff he'd do. He really knew how to make the tinctures. He'd have us picking dandelion seeds, and he knew how to make them herbs. And he told me something right now. I think my dad knew a little bit of that hoodoo stuff, but he said don't mess with it. He told me about, and it's superstition. It was like mumbo jumbo to me, but it was like, he said, man, I don't want you messing with this stuff. But he knew how to do some of that stuff. He knew how. I don't know if growing up in Mississippi they learned, but basically that occult part of, basically he said there's a certain time where you could go out and there's a plant. And he used to talk about High John the Conqueror a lot or something like that. But basically it's a plant where a certain time, if the moon hits it or something like, or if you take this plant and you go to court and you on trial for a flat line or unaliving, and if you have this plant and if you do something like that, you gonna get off. And I'm like, damn, ain't that like witchcraft or something? He said, man, son, don't mess with none of that stuff. But he used to tell us, some of it he might threw some cap on it, but like he talk about some of these different herbs and different things that you could do and things that maybe his grandparents knew about or something like that. And he told me, I don't want you messing around with that stuff. I don't even want you to even try it. But he said he knew how to do these things. And it was mumbo jumbo to me, I'd be like, well, whatever, what I'm saying? So I thought it was funny. So I didn't have an interest to try it, but I remember he used to talk about this root called High John the Conqueror. And it was a root that was used for, I think it might have been used for like it's some medicinal purpose. It was something you could mix it with, or you could do something with it. But he knew how to use all these roots and all that kind of stuff to, for healing. He'll take golden seal and he'll, like, we didn't really go to the doctor a lot. I don't remember him ever going to the doctor. And eventually he got cancer. And they was talking about some chemo. He said, man, I ain't about to take no damn chemo. And he didn't. And he just kept taking his roots and kept doing his tinctures and stuff like that. And that man worked until he was damn near dead. He never stopped working. He'd always do like the odd jobs and stuff like that. So I'll talk about that in part 2. So we'll get into that, in a minute. How you stop this?